Sea Hill into a major industrial port with strategic port land covering an area of 2,900 hectares annexed for infrastructure. There'll be 8+ ship berths and infrastructure for unknown use. There'll be road and rail infrastructure to Ramsay's Crossing down the northern part of Curtis Island and across the Narrows with a bridge at Ramsay's Crossing. There'll be 450 hectares of related port activity on Balaclava Island using the reclaimed land from the dredge material. There'll be another 4 berths on Balaclava Island, and we don't know for sure, but about another 10 million cubic metres of dredging. So, these are pretty ugly and very industrial looking things that we're talking about here. They'll certainly ruin our view. But aesthetics are not the most important issue. Let's think about the cumulative environmental impacts and ask ourselves, are we prepared to live with the consequences or leave them for future generations to deal with? To use the accepted principles of sustainable development, we need to think about environmental, economic and social impacts. The economic impacts can be viewed from a number of directions. We may see increased employment in the construction phase, but this would be short term because operating ports are not labour intensive. So we would be likely to see an increase in demand of housing and construction phase, but this is a boom and bust cycle. The impacts to the environment would be devastating, have a devastating effect on the tourism industry and the recreational boating and fishing sector. Existing businesses such as the Crocodile Farm, the Saltworks won't escape the impacts. The commercial fishing sector can look to Gladstone for examples of its potential future. And what are the overall impacts to the economy? We're not suggesting that coal and other resource commodities shouldn't be mined and exported. We understand the importance of these resources to our local, state and national economies. We are suggesting that the best solution for Queensland, for the environment and for the Great Barrier Reef is to minimise the impacts and risks by consolidating the locations of the major ports in existing locations. So the economy will have the same result. In fact, it could be better because the infrastructure costs would be less if existing ports were increased rather than starting from scratch. There'd be no new dredging because that dredging's already been done. This would also protect our existing businesses that support our economy despite the boom and bust cycle of the resources sector. So next, let's have a look at the environmental prospects. And I have to say, they're grim. Remember that we're looking at the largest river catchment that feeds the ecosystem of the Great Barrier Reef. Once dredging and construction commences, it's not possible to turn back time and unbuild things. What we're talking about is degradation and destruction of the habitats and ecosystems, removal and disturbance of fish and crab habitats, known spawning grounds for commercial species and our beloved recreational species. How can we measure the impacts of the disturbance of acid sulphate soils on these species? We can certainly look to Gladstone for answers, but I wonder if the truth will ever be uncovered. The independent reports being commissioned by agencies run by government and funded by the companies that are causing the problem. The impacts to water quality. Turbid brown water flowing out of the delta from dredging and continual disturbance and flowing up the coast towards the Keppels. One look at the flood plume from 2011 floods gives a clear indication as to what that would look like. This won't be a one-off event, but continually we'll have that water, to keep that water deep enough, we'll have those ships coming in, we'll be seeing that dirty brown water all the way through. So I think, no, it stopped. Oh, there we go.